Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, and your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. President Biden gives his first national primetime address on Thursday night, and I'm, for one, am looking forward to rhetorical flourishes like this one. Joe Biden explaining his $2 trillion in funny money spending.
The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private economic polling initiatives. The economists, as I said, left, right, and center, say, in addition to the needs the people have, we need this to grow the economy. That if we haven't spent this money and recreated the kind of incentive for people to be able to make a good living, that we'd be in real trouble.
Yeah.
What?
He is, it's like watching a toddler play act in the living room at a family gathering. Really, economist left, right, said, he's so cute. He's pretending to be president of the United States. Your Uncle Joe loves when he does that. We've talked to a couple of economists like Steve Moore and Casey Mulligan, who I guess would be characterized on the right, but their study that suggests that the $2 trillion in funny money spend could prevent 5 to 8 million jobs from being created suggests that no, actually, not all of the economists agree, as the left likes to play that game. All the scientists say and all the economists agree. The debate is over. No, it's not. And I suspect it will rage on after his speech on Thursday night. For more on this and a few other topics, pleased to be joined by Glenn Reynolds. He is the Beauchamp Brogan Distinguished Professor of Law at the University of Tennessee College of Law. And, of course, he is the creator of the indispensable Instapundit blog, which I read daily. He's also the author of the book, The Social Media Upheaval. Glenn, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
How about what we can anticipate from Joe Biden on Thursday night if past his prologue?
I like the toddler analogy. They've shown some ability to sort of prop him up in front of a teleprompter and get him to sound semi-coherent, and we'll see how well it does now. I mean, I feel bad about it. I mean, it's actually sort of a horribly immoral act that so many people in the Democratic Party and especially in the media more or less conspired to elect a guy that they knew was just mentally not all there. And he may surprise you. You know, my father had dementia. He was a professor. And I remember the neurologist saying that when people who are used to talking to people a lot like that get dementia, they fake it really well. And it's really hard to tell until they're very far gone. And the trouble is with Biden, you can kind of tell now. But, you know, he's got some habits to draw on and stuff. We'll see how it goes. But the real question I'd like to know is, since we know he's not pulling the strings there because he can't even find them, who is? Is it Susan Rice, as Richard Grinnell said? Is it Kamala Harris? Is it Jill Biden? I saw somebody on Facebook doing a signature comparison between Joe Biden's signature and the Joe Biden signatures appearing on executive orders. I don't think it has to be quite that fancy to do it. I think, you know, somebody's running the show, and it's not Uncle Joe.
Well, could it be President Obama?
Well, if it's Susan Rice, it basically is President Obama.
Yeah, it seems like it's, this is Joe Obama's third term, and all of your favorite. It's like Coming to America too. You know, the favorites that you liked 30 years ago, they're back. It's just the script is not nearly as good. If you've watched Coming to America too, oh my gosh, it's awful. And how great was Coming to America. But anyway, that's what it's like. So it's a bit of a team effort. And maybe Susan Rice, as Grinnell says, in the foreign policy arena, and maybe with some of the racial politics, and it's going to be other Obama acolytes in other areas.
I think that's right. And it's interesting because they were so crushed when Trump won because they thought they had it in the bag for Hillary, and they really thought the third term was going to let them consolidate their power in a way that really hadn't been done at least since FDR. I think that that's what they're trying to do now, but I think it's harder for them because, first of all, it's not 2008, and Joe Biden is not Barack Obama, and too many people are wise to the game. So I don't think it's going to go as well for them as they hope, but I think they felt like another term of Trump and they would be undone.
Victor Davis Hanson, essentially, in our conversation I had with him, said, look, I think Biden doesn't really care that much about the midterms. I don't think he particularly cares about control of the House or Senate, or perhaps in his mind he's conceded that it will be lost. He just wants to do everything he can do in his first 2 years where he's got all the power aligned to run the hardest left agenda that is available so that his legacy will be, I was the one, not Obama. I was the one who was the progressive champion, and that's going to be his political epitaph, and that's good enough for him, and then he can shuffle off or enjoy the 2 years of gridlock without paying much attention to it.
I hate to be in the rare position of being less optimistic than Victor Davis Hanson, but I think I am. I think the real purpose of getting into the White House is simply to control the various investigative bodies. First, to be sure that nobody was going to investigate the stuff that happened under Obama, and second, to use them against their opponents. They're trying to tar basically everybody who votes Republican as a domestic terrorist now. Yep. And I think they're going to try to do that to beat down the opposition as much as they can. And I think, again, it's control of the criminal, investigative, and, for that matter, financial apparatus of the executive branch that really matters to them more than anything else.
Glenn, President Biden has been in office, 6 weeks into office, 0 press conferences, and it's been, 49 days? Do you think we'll ever see him fielding questions in the White House briefing room?
I think even the softball questions that this media is going to feed him are more than he can handle. So they're going to have to keep finding ways to avoid that.
The prospects of another long, hot, violent summer, partly because of the Democrat socialists in charge of America's cities that don't believe in law enforcement, but also you have the backdrop of the Derek Chauvin trial, and interesting write-up in USA Today, some polling they've done recently about America's views on the Black Lives Matter movement. Last June, 60% in a USA Today survey described Floyd's death as murder. That percentage has dropped to 36%. Also, accusations of systemic racism in law enforcement. 60% of Americans expressed trust in Black Lives Matter to promote justice last June, compared with 56%. Now, trust in Black Lives Matter has fallen to 50%, which is still precipitous. And local police and law enforcement has risen to 69%. What do you think is going on there, and what does that portend for the future of the defund police movement and the future of law and order in America's big cities in particular?
Well, this is the difference between branding and performance. People, most Americans do think that Black Lives Matter, but they don't think the Black Lives Matter organization is even about that. And of course, they're right. There used to be an old saying in the SDS back in the 60s that said the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. And Black Lives Matter, made obvious quite rapidly that it was not about keeping black people from being unnecessarily killed by the police. It was about, as they said, waging war on capitalism and patriarchy and racist America and blah, blah, blah. Just the same usual laundry list of lefty crap that every lefty group advances. And they're always willing to sacrifice their ostensible mission to do that. If they're a climate change group, they tell you they're really after capitalism and the patriarchy. If they're a feminist group, it's all Me Too and smashing the patriarchy until a Democratic politician's in trouble, and then they go silent. They're all front groups for basically the same thing. And people don't like to be that cynical, but you can't really avoid the evidence.
What about that common term, check your privilege, when it comes to higher education?
That goes to something I wrote recently. Smith College had a fake racism case. It was a case in which a female black student made false claims that she'd been treated in a racist fashion by some staff. There was a janitor and a cafeteria worker and an unarmed campus policeman. Smith, of course, immediately believed her, disciplined all these people, issued a bunch of apologies, instituted mandatory racial sensitivity training for all the staff members in which they were asked all kinds of very personal questions about their childhood and stuff. Then it turned out, they brought in an outside investigator. It turned out the whole thing was fake, never happened. Smith, despite talking about the importance of inclusion and compassion and everything, never apologized to these staff people. And, all the talk about white privilege, if you're a janitor or a cafeteria worker at an expensive private school, you're not the privileged one there, whether you're white or not. And they, in fact, quoted one of the janitors as saying, whatever you do around here, you can't make one of the rich kids mad or you'll get fired. And the university was totally insensitive to that. Because in America, when we engage in class warfare, which is basically the sort of educated gentry professional class against the working class and small businesses, but it's disguised as cultural warfare and usually as anti-racism. But if you look at where the policies actually go, even things like depolicing, what happens when you have depolicing? Rich neighborhoods go south? No. Poor and working class neighborhoods go south. I mentioned in my column a book by Anthony Lucas about the Boston school desegregation. What did they do? They bused poor whites into poor black neighborhoods and poor blacks into poor white neighborhoods, while all the rich social engineers lived out in the suburbs like Belmont and places like that. And it was just really, and that's just very typical of how these things work. And even, Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness idea will basically take money from truck drivers and transfer it to people with graduate degrees in social work.
And so this is the argument, too, that's laid out in somewhat different fashion, but sort of gets to the same point that you're getting at by Joel Kotkin in his book, The Coming Neo-Feudalism, about the clerisy versus the yeomanry. Michael Lind, also at University of Texas, talks about the divide, and basically the bachelor's degree is the divide. And so if that's true, if what you and those other scholars are saying is true, then where should the so-called yeomanry, the entrepreneurs, that don't have political clout, the small business entrepreneurs, the tradesmen and women, the blue-collar workers, the people that don't have status, really, in society, who should they target in order to help us get this country back, or help them get this country back, help them at least get their lives back in this country?
The first thing they need to do is become more political. One of the things about the gentry class, as Joel Kotkin calls them, is they live and breathe politics. Everything they do is political. Everything they say is political. Everything they care about is political. Whereas people in the working class or people who are running a small business and such just want to get on with their lives and don't want to be bothered by this. But when they get involved, it makes a difference. Here in my community, the Board of Health got a little carried away with trying to close down bars and restaurants. And a whole bunch of people, bar owners, waitresses, bartenders and such, just showed up. 200 or 300 people protested at a Board of Health meeting. And the Board of Health, of course, acted shocked and appalled that these people would come and not appreciate their efforts and basically called them terrorists, but they also backed down. And I think that the fact is these people are mostly cowards. They will bully you as long as they can get away with it, and they will back down in the face of serious opposition. So the important thing to do is have serious opposition.
He is Glenn Reynolds, the Beauchamp Brogan Distinguished Professor of Law at University of Tennessee College of Law. And again, check out his blog if you're not already a regular reader, Instapundit. You got to read Instapundit. He's also the author of the book, The Social Media Upheaval. Glenn, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hey there. Yeah, I'm talking to you. What are you waiting for? Mortgage rates are still at an all-time low. Contact United Faith Mortgage. Hi, Amy Jacobson here, and I want to tell you about United Faith Mortgage. It's a small family team which allows them to give personal, one-on-one, limo-style type of care. It's run by father and son, John and Ryan, and don't forget John's wife, Denise, or sister-in-law, Barbara. They'll almost certainly answer your calls. So here's the deal. It's a direct lender advantage. What's that? Well, their team is lucky to have a direct lender advantage that allows them to often get you a better rate and save you monthly and lifelong money. And they also pay your appraisal fee up to $500. That's out-of-pocket money